So, guitar playing skills can usefully be divided between lead guitar and rhythm guitar. By lead guitar, we mostly mean phrases made up of single notes, rhythm guitar, we mostly talk about chords. And this lesson is all about chords, in particular how to understand how to play chords, how to hold down a chord shape, how to interpret a chord diagram. So, what exactly is a chord? Well, a chord by definition is two or more notes that are played that sound pleasing to the ear or harmonious. On a guitar we sometimes strum a chord. It's probably the most common way of playing a chord, but you also sometimes pluck a chord. Same effect, you're hearing all these notes simultaneously, and that's what a chord is. So the way we learn chords really is to learn them as a series of shapes. For example, that's an E minor chord shape. That's a G major chord shape, a D minor chord shape. And chords are represented in diagrams in a number of different ways. Here are some commonly used diagrams or ways of representing chords. Each method shows the same thing: where to place your fingers on the fretboard. There are a minimum of 2 bits of information you need: which string and which fret number. Let's look at how each method does this. Here's a chord box or grid. The 6 vertical lines represent the strings, the horizontal lines are the frets, and the blobs show where you put your fingers. So let's show you how I interpret this. So if I hold my guitar out in front of me like this, then this is my view of the fretboard, and it's that view that the diagram represents. The thick line at the top of the diagram is the nut, the vertical lines are the strings, the horizontal lines the frets. So the line on the left is the 6th string, the bottom E for elephant string. So the diagram is telling me to put a finger on the D string at the 2nd fret, another finger on the G string at the same fret, and a 3rd finger there on the B string at the same fret. Of course, once you've got the hang of this, you simply see the whole thing as a shape, and you see the diagram and just plonk your fingers down all together and get your chord. As with reading anything, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, the more direct. Now sometimes chord diagrams include extra bits of information, like exactly which fingers to use, and symbols placed along the top of each string to indicate whether it should be sounded. That's usually a 0, or not, and that's usually an X. So when you see a chord diagram, you're working it out, have your best shot at it, play the chord. If it sounds good, it's almost certainly right. If it doesn't, it's almost certainly not right. So if the chord's right, it's right. If it's wrong, there are 2 most likely possibilities are that you've got the right shape on the wrong strings, or you've got the right shape at the wrong fret. It's quite common to misread where you play the shape, and you can hear in all of those cases it doesn't quite sound quite as nice as when it's in the right place. Now the chord grid we've just been looking at is the method most commonly used, and it's the one we use on this site, but you should be aware that there are other methods that are used. Sometimes, for example, you'll see chord grids represented like this, horizontally. This can cause confusion, but the trick is to look straight at your fretboard. So that's your view. And you'll see with the nut to the left, the 6th string is at the bottom of the picture, as it is in the diagram. So that helps you read the diagram. Now on internet tab sites, you'll also see chords represented like this. Pretty much the same view as the horizontal grid. And sometimes you'll just get a sort of set of coordinates like this. The X says don't play the E string. The 0 says play the A string open. The 2 under the D says play the D string at fret 2, and so on. So the trick is with all of these methods is simply to see them as methods of conveying information about where to place your fingers on which strings at which frets. With this lesson under your belt then, you should be able to learn all sorts of new chords. But learning chord shapes is really just the beginning. It takes a few minutes to learn a new chord shape. But what takes lots of practice and persistence is learning to change from one chord shape to the next, smoothly, quickly and rhythmically. And that's where we're heading in our next lesson. See you there.